I woke up today and the world already felt wrong. You ever get that feeling when your morning starts off sideways? Like when you put your left shoe on your right foot, or the coffee tastes like metal, or the air smells different, and nobody else seems to notice. That was today. My name is Brandon Meyer. I'm 32, single, and honestly, I've been in a rut since COVID, so I know what weird mornings feel like, but this was worse. There was a cough in the air, not just from me or my upstairs neighbor, Mr. Jackson, but from random people on the street. Raspy, wet coughs, all out of rhythm. I cracked my window for a second and caught the echo of it drifting up and down the block. It made my skin crawl. Howard grew up in northern Ohio. Small town, good people, everybody knows your business. Now I'm in Cleveland. Third floor walk up, stuck in a city that never quite feels like home. The air smelled like pennies and rain, even though the sky was dry. As I made my way down the stairs, I passed the military van again, the one that's been idling outside all week. At first, I thought it was some kind of city contract. Now, I noticed the guys inside didn't look like the National Guard. No patches, no chit-chat, just blank stares and rifles across their laps. My apartment manager Carla pretends she doesn't notice them either, but I saw her peeking through the blinds when I left. She hasn't taken out the trash in 3 days. Something is off. Something is really, really off. At the corner, outside the gas station, there was a streak of blood across the curb. Just a smear, not a crime scene. Not enough for a panic, but still, blood where there shouldn't be blood. The clerk, Raj, was sitting outside on a milk crate, hands trembling as he lit a cigarette. "Rough morning?" I asked, trying to play it normal. He didn't answer, just stared at the street and muttered something in Hindi. I didn't push it. I needed coffee, so I got in line, but people were already talking about some new flu hitting the west side. My phone started buzzing with amber alerts, but none of them made sense. The world was trying to say something, but it was speaking in a code I didn't know how to break. I texted my sister Abby, who lives up near Akron. Usually she answers right away, but this time, nothing. I tried again, then called. The line rang, but then glitched out. The audio garbled like a broken robot. I checked Twitter, but all the trending hashtags contradicted each other. Stay home, don't panic, lockdown hoax. I messaged my buddy Chris, who's usually up for a beer or a conspiracy theory. The dots bounced for a second, then disappeared. That's when I noticed the bars on my phone dropping, then vanishing altogether. Communications blackout. No warning, no explanation. The world started shrinking. The walls of my life closing in. The coughs got louder. A woman across the street doubled over and spat something dark onto the sidewalk. The military van's engine revved, and I heard shouting from inside, but nobody else even turned to look. I saw Mr. Jackson from my building, old and slow, shuffling home with a bag of groceries. He looked right at me, but his eyes didn't light up like they used to. He just stared, then coughed, and kept walking. For a second, I wondered if I was dreaming. Then I realized I was wide awake, and I was the only one paying attention. That afternoon, I saw something that made it all real. Carla, the manager, was out on the fire escape, yelling at someone in the alley. I stepped out to see who it was and caught sight of her waving her arms, frantic. Down below, someone, or something, was clawing at the dumpster, making noises that didn't sound human. It was Rick from 1B, except he didn't move right, and his skin was grayish, his clothes smeared in blood. Carla screamed for him to get back, but he didn't stop. He just turned, jaw slack, eyes empty, and lunged. I pulled Carla back into the hallway and slammed the window shut. She was sobbing, shaking all over. "What is happening?" she kept saying, over and over. I didn't have an answer, but I saw it in her face. She finally believed it too. I locked my door, pushed my old couch against it, started checking windows for loose latches. Every movie, every zombie show I ever watched flashed through my head. The rules sounded stupid, but they made sense. Reinforce your home. Stay inside. Don't trust the news. My hands shook as I dug out the toolbox from my closet. I used to fix up bikes as a kid. Now I was nailing planks over my windows. I texted Chris again. I called Abby. No answer, just static. Carla was in the hallway, pacing, muttering prayers. I yelled at her to get inside, but she just kept staring at the door. It hadn't exploded yet, but the world outside wasn't waiting for anyone. I knew I couldn't count on help. I knew I couldn't leave. Not yet. Reinforce your home, I kept repeating. Reinforce your home. I heard the first scream at 9:17 p.m. My apartment faces the alley and the sound shot straight through the glass. Not a TV scream, but the real thing, raw and choking. Too close. For a second I just froze. I've always wondered what kind of person I'd be in a crisis. The one who runs toward the chaos, or the one who locks every door and hides under a table. Turns out I'm neither. I just stand there, shaking, phone in my hand, trying to dial a number that won't go through. The TV flickers emergency red, scrolling that ugly government warning across the bottom. Zombie invasion alert. Reinforce your home. If it wasn't so insane, I'd have laughed. But the screaming didn't stop. Carla's voice outside my door pulled me out of the daze. She was begging someone to let her in. When I opened the door, I saw blood on her hands. Not hers, she kept saying. Not hers, but from outside. She was shaking so bad she couldn't stand. I helped her in, locked the door again, and pulled the curtains. Through the peephole, I watched shadows gathering in the hall, heard the slap of wet feet, the scrape of nails against the wall. It was Rick again, and now he wasn't alone. Another shape, dragging itself, one leg at the wrong angle, and something about its face, like it wanted to scream but couldn't remember how. My mind snapped out of autopilot. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed every knife, hammer, and chair I could find, stacking them behind the couch. Carla sobbed on the floor, covering her ears. "Don't look," I told her. "Don't listen." But the noises kept coming, thumping, moaning, the slow, sloppy shuffle of bodies that didn't belong. I pressed my phone to my ear, but there was nothing except a faint emergency tone, repeating over and over. I tried the police. Busy. I tried 911, static. Then a message. All operators are currently unavailable. Please shelter in place. A window shattered down the hall. I heard Mrs. Gutierrez from 2A yelling in Spanish, something desperate, then a crash, then silence. My chest felt like it was going to explode. I thought about Abby, wondered if she was hearing the same chaos, or if Akron was still untouched. Maybe she was watching the same government alert scroll across her TV, clutching her little dog and trying to pretend everything was fine. I wished I'd called her this morning, just for a normal chat. I wished a lot of things. But now, all I could do was brace myself for what came next. The noise in the hall got louder. Someone or something was slamming against the next apartment over. Carla curled up tighter, whispering prayers. I checked the kitchen window. Figures moving outside, faces pressed to the glass, eyes clouded and blank. It was the same as the movies, but so much slower, so much more real. When the glass finally broke, I heard Raja's voice, but it wasn't really his anymore. "Carla, get up here." I heard Raja's voice, but it wasn't really his anymore. He was in my kitchen, dragging himself across the linoleum, mouth snapping open and shut like a broken toy. He looked at me for a second, and in that moment, I swear, he recognized me, just for a heartbeat. Then he lunged. I swung the hammer. I hit him. I don't remember the details, just the sound, the feeling, the smell. There was blood everywhere, some of it on me. Carla screamed. I backed up, pulling her behind the couch, my hands shaking so bad I dropped the hammer twice. Raj's body twitched, then went still, but it didn't look dead. Nothing looked dead. My mind kept playing tricks. Maybe this is all a nightmare. Maybe I'll wake up and it'll be fine. But the world outside my apartment kept falling apart. One floor, one door, one friend at a time. After that, everything blurred. I grabbed a towel and wiped my face, trying to ignore the blood. I pulled Carla away from the windows, covered them with blankets and the last of my wood scraps. We sat there, just breathing while the city around us died. Sirens wailed in the distance, sometimes close, sometimes fading, but nobody came for us. Nobody was coming for anyone. That's when I realized this wasn't about infection anymore. This was about something bigger. The world had changed, and nobody was ready. Carla finally fell asleep on my shoulder, shaking with each sound outside. I sat there, holding the hammer, thinking about Abby, about Chris, about every person I'd ever taken for granted. There was nothing left to do but wait. Reinforce your home, they said, but nobody told us what to do when the dead came inside. I listened to the scraping in the hallway, the heavy breathing outside my door, and wondered if the world would ever feel normal again. Carla woke up gasping, clawing at my arm like she'd been drowning in her dreams. The apartment smelled like sweat and fear. I tried to make her laugh, told her she owed me rent for the guest room, but her eyes just darted toward the door. The hammer in my lap felt heavier than before. I looked at my phone again, battery flashing red, no signal, no new messages. If Abby was still out there, she was just as trapped as I was. The world outside my window was gray with morning, but nothing moved except a few stray shadows that didn't belong to people anymore. We didn't talk about what happened to Raj. I piled his body in the bathtub and locked the door, and we both agreed not to check on it. Carla wanted to pray, so I let her. I wanted to pretend it was all still fixable. The building felt smaller by the hour. Somewhere down below, I heard a gunshot, then a long animal howl. The noise didn't stop. The idea of staying in this box started to feel worse than anything outside, but the thought of opening the door made my skin crawl. I thought about my dad, how he always said, "You take care of your people, no matter what." I wondered if I was failing that lesson by just surviving. Around noon, the power flickered and died. The TV snapped off, fridge too. Suddenly it was just me, Carla, and the hammer. The air grew thick and hot. We ate peanut butter out of the jar and split a single bottle of water. I kept thinking of Chris, how he'd be joking through the end of the world, but he was gone silent. I checked his texts over and over, as if staring would bring him back. We talked about escaping, but the hallways were alive with shuffling bodies, moans, and the scrape of nails. At some point, we stopped talking about escape and just sat there, listening to the world rot. I think it was a little before sunset when everything went to hell. I heard banging, hard, desperate, at the main door downstairs. A voice I recognized, Mrs. Gutierrez, begging to be let in, her words slurred, crying. Then another voice joined her, a man, but the words made no sense, just choking and screaming. Carla wanted to open the door. I pulled her back. She clawed at me, called me a coward, but I wouldn't let go. I heard the crash as the lobby door gave in, the thud of bodies, the pounding on the stairs. I braced the apartment door with everything I had, couch, table, chair, my own back, hammer up and ready. Carla sobbed behind me, cursing in Spanish and English, pounding on the walls. The door shook, hinges popping, wood splintering. Then it burst open. I don't remember all of it. I remember swinging. I remember the sick sound of the hammer, the smell. Mrs. Gutierrez's eyes, black and hungry, her mouth wide. I remember Carla screaming. I remember blood everywhere. On me, on Carla, on the walls, sticky and warm. Something bit me. I kicked and punched and screamed until my throat burned. In the chaos, Carla slipped away, running toward the fire escape. pushing past bodies that weren't really people anymore. I saw her make it to the window, saw her leap for the ladder. I fought my way after her, hands bleeding, breath ragged, mind blank with terror. I don't know how long I ran. I remember the hallway, the fire escape, the alley below choked with bodies moving like water. I remember losing my hammer, grabbing a pipe, swinging and pushing and clawing. Carla was ahead of me, screaming for help, but nobody was left to hear. She vanished around a corner. I stumbled after her, limping, blood soaking my shirt. The city wasn't a city anymore, just a maze of shadows and screams. I kept moving because stopping was dying. At some point, the world went quiet. I found myself on the edge of town, looking back at the skyline, the last of the sun bleeding red through the haze. My arms and legs shook, my body bruised and raw. I tried to call Abby again, but my phone was finally dead. The rules had all changed. I wasn't the person I was yesterday. The world wasn't the world anymore. I started walking, one foot after the other, out into the empty roads. I didn't feel hopeful or doomed, just different. I kept walking because it was all I could do. Reinforce your home, they said, but nobody tells you what to do after you lose it. That's the thing about the end of the world. There are no more rules. Just you, the road, and whatever comes next.